We're gonna start over, okay? I didn't hit the button. We can't miss the intro. It's too good. So I'm gonna start this intro over, and we'll start from the top of the list. Here we go. Well, that didn't work. That did not work at all. My mouse is sticky. Okay. All right. We're gonna do it. Okay, starting over. This is pjnet.tv. I am Coach Prasick, and we have first-time guest number 330. What a ride this is going to be. You're going... this is going to be good, okay? Trust me. Aaron M. Zook Jr., who I should introduce as Colonel. He is a retired Colonel from the Army. Is joining us from his study, his man. Is that your man cave, Aaron?
This is my man cave, yes.
Now, where were you earlier today? What was that? You have another location.
Yes, we are timeshare owners. So I was actually at a timeshare, and that's where I do the majority of my writing. So I leave the house, and this timeshare is only about 5 or 10 minutes away. So I drive there, do my writing, but there's several in the actual network, so I can go many different places to write, depending upon what I need to, the background I need to really settle in and isolate myself.
So you and I share a characteristic. When I'm involved in work, I call it immersion. I have a man cave. I'm in it now, and this is our studio. This is the Eagle's Nest. And when I start a project, I have to just shut off the rest of the world. And I do my work mostly at night, so it's easy to shut off the rest of the world at 2 a.m.
Absolutely.
But I don't know how people do things while they're doing other things. I can't have 3 projects going. I can't do it during the day and get a phone call. So are we similar in that respect?
We certainly are, because once I get started on a storyline, I cannot... if it gets interrupted, then I have to go right back to the beginning and refresh myself on what I'm doing, and then get back into the book.
Perfect. A 30-second phone call creates a 30-minute delay.
Absolutely.
Just to tell them you'll call them back, or something like that. But I can't really keep the cup. So that's why I do a lot of work at night. I'm usually up till 4 and 5, 6 in the morning. So kind of a night owl, kind of a vampire. Your career in the military, you retired as a colonel, so I guess you spent more than a couple years doing that. Tell us about your military career.
Well, my military career is a little unusual. I started in the Air Force after about a year in college. So when I got into the Air Force, I began as an enlisted man. I went to basic training at Lackland Air Force Base, traveled around the country doing a short temporary duty stations. That's called a TDY. And I was TDY for about a year and a half. I learned the Korean language and became a Korean linguist. And I went over to Okinawa for my major assignment. And that was at Okinawa, Japan, at Kadena Air Base.
Well,
that was. Go ahead.
Korea, let's see, was that back when they were flying the MiG-15s? No, it was later than that.
I'm not sure exactly. I think they had MiG-21s.
Yeah, they were. I'm actually doing a video with a replica of a MiG-15. There's an author that was on our program a few weeks back. He actually purchased a MiG-15.
Wow.
he was the air
amazing.
boss for the Pensacola Air Show, which is the kickoff for the season of the Blue Angels.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. I was telling my daughter about it because he'd written a children's book, sent my daughter the book, and I said, and she didn't know what the Blue Angels was. I said, I have failed as a father. I have absolutely failed as a father. I never took you to a Blue Angels air show.
Right. I used to build model airplanes of the Blue Angels when I was a kid. So.
Yeah, well, they're based not far from where I live in Pensacola, about 4 hours off. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. So, anyway, I started out in the Air Force. I did 4 years active service. I finished up as a sergeant. Spent 2 years in the inactive reserve while I went back to college. Finished my degree at Penn State, my bachelor's, and then I went on to the Army. And I enlisted in the Army to go through Officers Candidate School. And in the process, I ended up becoming a lieutenant after being there for about 6.5 months, and that's how long it took to get all the schooling done. And then I went on through various assignments, most of my time being in Germany, and that's how I ended up becoming a colonel. Spent some time in the desert, which is the Iraqi desert, and Kuwait, and several other places.
You're retired now, but let's see. Now, when you switched to the Army, I presume this is when did you obtain your Masters of Military Science, and what is Masters of Military Science? How do I get one of those?
Okay, well, basically, this was obtained by going to the U.S. Army War College, which is a college set up for senior lieutenant colonels and colonels. And during the process, we learn about integrating the tactical, operational, and strategic levels of war, and then understanding as well how the political, economic, and other influences factor together in making decisions as a senior officer.
Did you actually study Sun Tzu?
Yes, Sun Tzu was part of my studies throughout my military career.
I have studied Sun Tzu. Um, I don't know how old that is, but I think it's standard text in any military
It
educational
certainly should be.
institution.
Right. If
Um,
it's not, it should be.
yeah, we hope our enemies don't read that. Well, and there's actually a lot of principles, like football and the military. They're kind of on some common ground. The principles of leadership, the principles of success, of achievement. It doesn't matter if you're in the military, or in athletics, or if you're writing a book, or if you're seeking a career in some other way. The principles are the same. They apply universal. They're ubiquitous. Oh no, they apply universally.
Right. Correct. And the other thing too about that is that you also learn a lot about teamwork, which you have to study your environment, whether it's the military or a civilian organization, or maybe in a political organization that's trying to achieve a goal. And then you have to work with teamwork, and you have to be able to lead that team to success in whatever environment you establish.
So later on, we'll be talking about books you've written. I don't normally think of writing a book as a team uh, sport, but I've come to learn it actually is.
Right. There's a lot of different avenues that you can approach using that. I do mine by talking to people. I do also with my publisher, and I have a friend of mine who actually ends up doing a lot of the editing on my book. And we go back and forth, and he's been doing news columns for quite some time, and he's retired from that. Now he's doing a lot of other extra work that has to do with the publishing world, but he's my coach. And just like you, coach, I use him as somebody to go to and to get some really straight advice. He's been in the writing world much longer than I have, and his first name is Larry. So Larry and I go back and forth through the book. We try to cover all the major concepts. We try to cover the thought lines, the process lines, the tempo of the book, and a lot of other things like style of writing, etc. In addition to just basic grammar and making sure.
Does Larry's last name begin with the letter L as well?
Sure, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me telling y'all. His name is Larry Leach,
Yeah,
and
he's
Larry's
been
an
on our
incredible
program.
man. He's just a wonderful guy. He and I mind sync basically when I go into my books, uh, and we go back and forth and we create storylines. He helps me get things straight. Not only does he do that, but he also helps me make sure the book is integrated so that it's a complete whole when it's all done.
Larry's wife is battling cancer.
Yes, she is. And she's actually been able to get out of the hospital. She's recovering at this point. They're praying that she would be cancer free, and she's in my prayers frequently.
You're involved in something I have never heard of. the Officers Christian Fellowship.
Right. So there's an organization that I have supported from the minute I became a second lieutenant in the Army. Um, I've actually belonged to more organizations than that. One's Christian Military Fellowship, which is focused on Bible studies, primarily aimed at the enlisted ranks. Then Officers Christian Fellowship is based on officers helping others to maintain their Christianity in the military, to reach out to others who aren't Christians, help them understand Christianity, and also the life of Jesus Christ and what it means. It's a great way or a great avenue to strengthen people through Bible studies and through fellowship organizations. There's a couple of conference centers that they own. One is in Colorado, and it's called Spring Canyon. The other one is called White Circle Springs. That's located in Pennsylvania. And these conference centers become the point where many people actually learn how to put their faith in action. So we try to live our lives practically and support and reach out to other people so that they might know about Jesus Christ.
I'm looking in our chat room at pjnet.tv, and Tammy says this: "Thank you, Aaron, for your service and your faith in doing so."
Thank you, Tammy. I certainly appreciate that. It's my pleasure to serve. I really do believe that the United States is a special country, basically because it allows us to be Christians in the military and in our country and freely worship and express our belief in faith.
Well, it takes faith, and we don't normally associate military service and faith, but then we've all heard the thing: there are no atheists in foxholes either. Anyway,
Right.
well, gosh, time is doing us well. We've covered a lot of ground, and I said if we had time, we would touch on for a tough colonel. You have an interest in music.
I do. And music has been something that has sustained me for a long period of time. My mother was an organist in the church, and she was a Lutheran. My dad was Lutheran, and I was brought up singing in their choirs, and eventually took some music, some classes, etc. And I finally graduated with a music education degree at Penn State, so I could teach other people music. So I put that degree to the side for a while so that I could pursue a military career. But it basically became part of my life as well, because I became a worship leader for about 20 plus years in the military in various chapels around the world. And also I did that in some of the churches where we were located as well. So I had a lot of fun using my skills, my talents that the Lord had given to me so I could lead others in praise and worship and help strengthen and sustain their faith. It's really, really key to my walk with God. I usually spend about 30 minutes praising Him in the morning. I play guitar and sing. And as a worship leader, I love to help other people worship the Lord.
What's your favorite genre in music?
At this point in time, it's got to be contemporary Christian music, but I grew up on Gordon Lightfoot, the Beatles,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the soft, easy listening music. That was always a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, Gordon Lightfoot's our friend from Canada. You know, if I could,
James
if you
Taylor.
could read my mind,
Right.
I listened to a lot of that stuff, but my favorite was Led Zeppelin,
Ah,
Boston, and Elton John. Now, Elton
right.
John is probably, if I had to name my favorite musical artist. Uh, it's unfortunate that he has pursued a lifestyle that he has, because
Mm,
he is a
right.
very gifted pianist, just
Incredible. Yeah.
incredible talent, and quite the showman. But
He certainly is. Yes.
um, he's good. Okay, now, as if you have got such a boring life, I guess you had to find something to do, so you turned to writing. And I'm going to put this book up on the screen, but it is one of many.
Hmm.
It's actually the last in a series, so we've got about 4 minutes. So catch us up on the beginning in the series, and then let's bring it in for a landing about this book that's on the screen, The Secrets of the Castle.
Okay, so actually, this is the beginning of the series.
Oh, well,
Uh,
yes. Let's start
that's
there.
Yeah, start there. And the book series is 5 books long right now, and I think there's that's the current book series that I have out now. The sixth book will be coming out either at the end of this month or the beginning of next month, just in time for the shopping season, right?
Mm.
So it's called the Elimination Games. But let me start with the Secrets of the Castle. So my boys are my inspiration. We have 2 boys that are about now grown and have wives and children, and they're wonderful Christian families. But these boys were crazy because they reminded me of my boyhood and all the crazy things I did. So I created characters. They inspired me. My older boy has dark hair like this. The boy that's pictured in the book cover. His name is Alex Xanadu, and then Gabriel Xanadu is the guy with the blonde hair on the right. He looks like Dennis the Menace. Anyway, these 2 guys. They just are fighting evil around the world, and they get thrown into these situations not of their own choosing, but most of the time it's because some crazy event happens and they're trying to figure out how to solve it. They want to be junior detectives and then eventually grow up and be detectives. They grow up in a homeschooled family, so they're taught to investigate and go out and explore and try to handle the world on their own. And these guys do a great job of that, but it really puts them in some precarious situations. So they battle against human trafficking organizations, terrorist organizations, all basically because they're thrown into the mix and they don't really have a choice, but they have to solve the problem in order to fix the issue. And I can tell you that the boys' faith grows in every story. They're in Germany for the first 2 stories. Then they're in Salzburg, Austria for story number 3. That's the home of Mozart, by the way, a little musical connection there. In book 4, they're in Okinawa, Japan. Book 5, they're in San Antonio, Texas. And I can tell you that you're supposed to write what you know. So I've been writing about things that I've experienced because I've either been assigned there or lived there as a child. And I'll continue to do that through the rest of the book. The Elimination Games takes place in France and takes place near where some Olympic Games took place. And then the 7th book, which will be out, is going to be taking place in Korea. And I did spend some time over there as well. So I try to make it exciting. There's a faith line all the way through the book series. The boys are growing in their faith through every story.
Aaron, I connected immediately with some of the locations because I read your bio. And it's in Austria where they serve those good pretzels, I think you said. Is that
Absolutely. I love going back there so I can get those
just
pretzels.
for pretzels? Yeah, no other reason, I'm sure. I find it odd, Aaron, um, that someone as learned as you and so in a multitude of disciplines, from the military to music, okay, and then you are now expressing yourself by writing fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the cognitive dissonance that I'm wrestling here?
Uh,
Uh, those are scientific or mathemat. There's a lot of science in those disciplines that you've spent a
exactly.
life in, but now you're writing fiction. How so?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Well, it's really funny because I was in the military for 30 years. I was doing praise and worship as I went around. I was a pastor for a short time as well. So my faith and the military went together because I felt like I was encouraging other people to think about what they were doing and to put it in God's perspective as they were approaching the battlefield or whether they were praising the Lord. So when I was getting ready to retire, I sat down with a counselor who they give you a counselors to go through a program to leave the military and get
Mm-hmm.
situated in the civilian world. And I'm just going to call him coach because that's what he called himself. And the coach realized after he had done some intelligence tests and some other things that I had some gifts in the realm of music. And he said, have you ever thought about pursuing something different than the lockstep military mindset that you run into in the
Mm-hmm.
military? And I said, well, I like to write. I'd like to get back to that sometime. He said, can you meet with me on a Saturday? And I said, sure. So I did. And we actually talked about it, prayed about it. I cried about it. I mean, I was really, it struck my heart to be able to think about the fact that I could write stories that would impact other people. And this is a way of reaching the world for Christ. The first three books in my series are crossover books. In other words, anybody can read the book, and there's nothing in there that would cause them to go, oh, like this is a faith book. It's all about adventure and excitement in kids' lives. It's all about good against evil, and everybody wants to see that. But as the books progress, you can see these boys grow in their faith, and they both eventually give their lives to Christ in the series. It's just exciting to see how that develops, and I get to present that to people through a book series. So it's something that can actually reach the world for Christ, because these two boys have those experiences and what I call real world type events where they give their lives to Christ. Of course, that's fiction, but you can imagine what these boys go through and their dangerous adventures and how that might draw them closer to the Lord in the process.
Mm-hmm. Aaron, you're a smart guy. Now, I normally ask a question. I'm not going to have to ask you that. You've already answered it. Because I'm very skeptical of fiction writers that call themselves Christian authors. Yeah. I always want to clarify, are you a writer, are you a fiction writer that is also a Christian, or are you a Christian fiction writer? There's a difference. The distinction is very important. But your approach is one I've never heard. Now, was it literally a decision that you said, I'm going to put out 3 books for the general market and get them attached to the series, and then I'll introduce faith in book 4 and 5 and so forth? Was that an intentional strategy on your part?
Initially, I was just going to make that first book a crossover book and then go straight into the faith development. But behind every book and every series, even books 1 through 3, there is a character development series that anybody would be happy to see happen in their kids. Because these boys, even though they make mistakes, they make bad decisions, that's part of the growth process. And to make these decisions in a godly environment is completely different. And as the older boy gives his life to Christ in book 6, and through book 6 through book 10, you're going to see these boys dance around some questions that Christians ask themselves all the time, and they don't know the answer, or they can't figure out the answer. Well, I've done a lot of reading as a pastor. I've done a lot of research, and I've also listened to a lot of different things like Dobson's Focus on the Family series. And I also like to listen to and read other books as well. There's The Case for Christ by Josh McDowell, or Lee Strobel, sorry. Mm-hmm. I don't know why Josh McDowell came up, but his name is also very familiar to me. And as I go through the book series, this is part of the Case for Christ is in books 6 and 5. So I lay out some of those strategies there. My idea is to open the world that you don't have to be a strange person to be a Christian. Mm-hmm. You can have a wonderful, exciting, fantastic life. You can walk with God through the whole process and enjoy your life and have fun, excitement, and completion and fulfillment in the whole process.
Aaron, we've run out of time. I've put your website on the screen, zookbooks.org. There is much more there, and we can only scratch the surface in the time allotted. Aaron, I'm impressed. Thank you for sharing with us. We're looking forward to not only this next book, but you've got more coming out after that. And what a ministry. What a way to take 2 adventure-seeking, loving kids and raise them up in these books into disciples. Mm-hmm. Amazing storyline. We commend you for not only your service to our country, but your service in the kingdom. And it's a pleasure to have you share that story here with us on pjnet.tv.
Oh, thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity.
Aaron Zook here on pjnet.tv. What? Gosh, I wish we'll have to just have people come back. You just can't pack it all into 20 minutes, can you? You just can't. All right. Well, folks, in just a few minutes, Lori Kesey will be coming our way. I took a little extra time with Aaron because we kind of stumbled at the start, so I wanted to kind of make that up. But we'll be starting Lori Kesey in just a few moments. I've got a lot to do to get ready for that. While I'm doing that, would you consider doing this? Just ask yourself 2 questions. Here's the first one. And answer yourself too, by the way. What is the boldest thing that you have ever done in the kingdom of Christ? The second question, how long ago was that? You see, the challenge is to never be satisfied with either answer.